We're back once again in the Keller Williams training room, or I guess the content studio, and I'm here with LaCressa Morrow. Thank you so much for taking time and hanging out and doing all this with us.
You're welcome.
Very
I
excited
appreciate you asking me, actually.
Of course, I'm excited to have you. Excited to talk to you on camera because I think over the last year we've gotten to know each other pretty well, and I think we work well together. But I want to just kind of preface all this. What is a productivity coach in your eyes? I want you to define your job.
So I feel a productivity coach is someone who's there to coach, mentor, and train. Right? So it's a combination of the three because a lot of it is mindset, right? And then it's also pushing them, and also you have to train them because it's when it comes to real estate, there's a lot of documentation, right? And so you got to teach them how to fill in the blanks. You got to help them to build up their confidence so they can get out there and start building up their own business and helping them to transfer their mindset from being an employee to an employer of themselves, right? And a CEO of their own business, and then kind of building them up and also pushing their buttons and getting them to step outside their comfort zone.
I think one of the things I've observed in the last year is watching you take this job so seriously because you know that a lot of the negative self-talk can derail them so much. And so you're so good and positive about building them up. Is it just from your experience, what you've seen around you, or is it just something that you know inherently, like that good people who are motivated do better work, or where does that come from?
Ooh, it's life. Easy enough. Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. You know, me 4 years ago is not the same person that I am now. I mean, we're all growing and changing, hopefully. Not all of us choose to grow and change. We do recognize that as well. Also, I recognize that just wasn't in place when I got in the business. Next year will be 20 years for me. And no one was coaching or mentoring or training. Like, you can join a team, you could be someone's assistant, and then you learn from behind the scenes or just being told what to do all the time. But there was this attitude that no one taught me real estate, so you got to figure it out yourself and you'll be a better realtor. I don't know if that's actually true or not, because this is such a high stakes game, right? Like, people are making one of the biggest financial decisions of life. They're always making big decisions in their life, but this is one of the biggest financial decisions in your life that could actually help you change the course of your life, right? And so to have agents or realtors, whichever their level is, out there just happenstance having to figure it out on their own while trying to help someone make decisions, it doesn't sound good. Like, it's a recipe for disaster.
I love that outlook because it's one of the things. So I'm a huge nerd. Like, I'm a nerd. I'm a huge nerd.
I mean, a nerd in my own way, but yes, we all nerdy in
my son's middle name is Benjamin. Because of Peter Benjamin Parker, Spider-Man. Because with great power comes great responsibility.
It does.
And I've always believed that, and that power, and I love that phrasing because it's not the opportunity responsibility, it's not the option, it is your responsibility. And I love that you look at your industry and you saw how hard it was for you to climb, or how the path wasn't laid in front of you.
Yeah.
And you decided, I don't want to watch someone else do that. I'm going to throw down a rope and throw down a ladder and say, here are some signs, here are some paths forward. And I think that that's super cool because it's so easy in both of our industries to say, I'm focused on me and mine and getting mine and the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something special and above and beyond that says, let me look at the path I took and see if I can make the path for the next person a little bit easier.
Man, I want you to get there faster than me. When I got into real estate, I was super gung-ho and excited, and been very fortunate to be offered jobs before I even wanted the job, right? And so I don't take that for granted. But I was offered real estate job multiple times, and I said no multiple times. And then finally I said yes. And then I already had a job lined up before I got my license. And so my path hasn't been the same as others. At the same time, it still wasn't an easy path.
Right.
And I don't know, why not help people get there faster? There's no reason for you to have to recreate the wheel and struggle for no reason when someone can be there to kind of help you go along.
But it's something that you've actually helped me with in the last year. It's the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
So many people are thinking, if I train this person, I'm going to lose business or I'm going to lose opportunities because there'll be another qualified person. And it's moving at abundance and there's enough for everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to share what you know. Otherwise, your knowledge dies on the vine with you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's enough room out there for everyone. Where there's approximately like 8 million people in metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
I might get 30 of them a year, 36, 50, you know, depending, right? Some agents get 5, some agents get 25, some agents get 50. But there's still 8 million people out there, and we all need a place to live.
Amen to that.
Right? And at the end of the day, you choose the person. You work with the person. You trust the person. So who works with you is not necessarily going to work with me. Who I attract is not what you attract. And some of the people that I attract, I don't want to attract, and I can say no, right? And like, I'm not your person.
Right.
So yeah, as long as you know that you have your space and there's enough room out there for everyone. And I'm a big believer in what God has for me is for me. So if it's not mine, it was never mine anyway.
There you go. What you talked about earlier is kind of how you have continued to be offered jobs and positions in real estate. I want to talk about that for a second because, like you said, your path forward was atypical, but it wasn't atypical because you come from an entrepreneurial spirit. You come from a place of do it yourself, figure it out, find a way. My dad went to Clark, so find a way or make one is a big one.
Right. Oh, that's a Clark motto?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the Clark CAU motto is find a way or make one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so I think that I kind of want to get to your story of, you said you've turned down a couple jobs on the path forward. How did real estate find you finally after chasing you for so long?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I said yes, finally, mainly. So I was a restaurant girl. So I've always been taking care of people, anticipating people's needs. Like that's what a good server or a good bartender does, right? And then I opened and bartended and trained and all that stuff. So I guess I've been in a world of training and coaching, and I was doing home buyers classes for the last 10 years. So I think that has been a part of me without me knowing that it was a part of me. It's just something that I naturally did. And yeah, so I moved to a new restaurant and a new chef-owned restaurant, and that person would pop up again and be like, hey, you'd be really good as a realtor, right? Because we're always trying to recruit people into the industry, and usually servers and bartenders because they can multitask, they can handle levels of chaos and anxieties of people because hungry people can be very angry, and you need to be able to manage that, right? And kitchen in front of the house and back of the house. So I just finally said yes, and then I had to figure it out because I had several friends who were going into the real estate, and so they were taking Barney Fletcher class, like during the day, like 9 to 5, like in school.
Right.
And as a party of one, I ain't have time for that because mama has to pay bills, right? So I was waiting tables, doing doubles, and doing it on the side online. And I figured it out, and then luckily, passed because I already had a job lined up. And so it was, I take the test, I'm going on a 10-day vacation for the first time out of the country, and then immediately when I come back, I start the job. So I had no time in between to fail, right? Because he was expecting me to start this job, and I can't start the job without having a license because I was going to be a broker's assistant. So yeah, so it's a little bit of, I wouldn't say luck. I mean, I think I've been very blessed, but I obviously displayed something in them that said you could do this other thing. And I think you need to be open to hearing other people see things in you that you might not always see in yourself. And I can tend to be a little blind. Like people have to be really obvious with me, or I just think, oh, you're just kind. You're being sweet. That's kind of how I got the PC job. Like, I didn't think that they were serious. I was just like, oh, that's, oh, good for you. You're going to have a PC coaching group. I didn't think that they were offering it. Jason was offering it to me.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's a couple of things. You have to be open, number one. And you also have to be willing to, be open to hearing what other people see in you.
I don't want to you said, I don't want to call it luck. I've always thought of luck as preparation meaning opportunity.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so
I've heard that.
But what also is so fun for me is to hear people. I wasn't a restaurant guy, but I was definitely a bar hopper in my 20s. And so
Observer of staff.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But all my friends own bars, own restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was always around them. And it was always so interesting to me when you'd see people leave the industry or transition out and say, I have no skills. And I'm like, you know what you've done? One of my best friends, I ended up closing on his condo last year.
Oh, cool.
He just got married. Like he's had such a great life, just adjustments since leaving the bar, not leaving the bar industry, but transitioning outwards. He said to me, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I leave the bar. And I said, you have all these skills. You have all these things that, like you said, you're unaware of what people see in you. And now he is running device sales for like a heart. They do tablets for in the field for like industrial work.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, but it's all customer service. It's all retention of
been doing.
information. It's
Yep.
all making them feel special and making them feel important and addressing problems. And I'm like, you've done this job without knowing you were doing this job at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think also too is it's an American thing, right? We tend to discount the importance of hospitality. At the same time, we complain about the lack of hospitality, right? And so sharing a meal with people is a very personal thing, right? It creates an intimate relationship at that moment of time between you or even a stranger next to you sitting at a bar. You're sharing a meal in a sense, even if you're not talking to each other. Right. So hospitality is a big thing. And obviously our whole nation is based on hospitality. So we have a lack of respect for overall as servers and bartenders as a profession, whereas outside the country, it is like a sacred thing to be a server in a particular restaurant or a maitre d' or a host, right? Or sommelier. We're getting there, but at the same time, we still discount it. So because it's discounted, because we only make $2.13 an hour, because we're relying on tips, right? It's always like, well, why don't you get a better job?
It's so funny. I had not this conversation. I had a similar conversation with not a friend is strong, an acquaintance recently.
Isn't that great to start redefining relationships though?
It truly is.
Right? Because we have a tendency to, I know it's just caveat, I mean, that's a tangent, but we have a tendency to say friends when it's like a colleague, an acquaintance, someone I just happened to run into, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship with that person, but I think we also have to distinguish the levels of relationships that we have with people.
100%. But they said to me something to the effect of pouring coffee isn't a career.
A good cup of coffee is fantastic.
That was my first counterpoint. Like, well, think about how many days of your life has been changed by a good cup of coffee. So,
oh, don't talk to me before I haven't had a cup of coffee, right? Like, it's not just the coffee, it's the smell, it's when it enters your body, that heat or ice. I'm not an iced coffee person. I think they're weird. But, you know, the heat, the smell, like it just helps you to get centered.
And I said to him, okay, do you think you having coffee is important? He said, yeah. I said, okay, great. Do you think the person who poured you coffee should have the ability to live safely with dignity?
Absolutely.
And he was like, well, it's not a forever career. I go, I didn't ask you that. I'm divorcing your original
Nothing's
comment.
forever.
Nothing's forever. I said, but let's just have this conversation.
Yeah.
Should the person who is serving you coffee be able to go home and pay their bills without stress or worry? He says, I guess. And I had to like talk him through the thought process that led him to say, they need a better job. Pouring coffee is not a career. I was like, let's just unpack that for a second here. Are you a bad person? I don't think I'm. I was like, cool. So let's reframe and not say things like that anymore. So you don't want to be a bad person.
Also, a good question would be like, if every freaking coffee shop disappeared, do you remember when there were no coffee shops? Right? And you were just relying on that coffee maker at home that's been sitting there, or that coffee machine at the office, not the instant one that makes new fresh cups of coffee for you all the time, but that pot that's been sitting there kind of like going on the burner, like kind of like going to Waffle House. Like, how long has that coffee been there? That's horrible.
Right.
And now you're paying $6 for a latte.
And it is what it is.
And it changes your life.
It changes your life.
And you find a way for that $6 for that cup of coffee, or $3 for drip, depending on where you are.
I love that you come from that hospitality background, because it informs and permeates through your work with the PC groups that I get to see every second Saturday and every second Tuesday firsthand, because you approach them with such care, and you are a good example and exemplar for what they can do with their lives. And I think that it's super important that they realize, and that you're able to communicate kind of, you can build the life you want, and you can build it in the way you want. And as Mark told me, there's a million different ways to do this job, but the important thing is that, one, you do it,
Absolutely.
you do the work.
Yeah.
But two, you find the way that resonates most with you. And I think that part of your training course in the PC group that I've seen is then you've asked them the hard questions on, hey, let's figure out the whys and the wherefores behind everything that you say you want to do, so that as you're building your confidence in your career, you have this bedrock to go back to. Is that just life experience? Is that just your personal, like you said 4 years ago you couldn't have done this? Is that something you've grown into?
A bit. I would say that, number one, you have to be open that your whys will change, right? But there was a reason why you did this. Real estate is not easy. First, let's start off that starting out in real estate is not easy, just by, you have to take a 75-hour class. And then you got to study for that 75-hour class. Most of us have been grown for a while and haven't studied like that, right? Unless you're pursuing masters and doctorates, but we wouldn't be having that conversation because you'd be in a whole different world.
Right.
So most people have not taken a class in a long time. So 75 hours is a long time. Federal laws, state laws, all of that stuff. And you build yourself up, and then you go past the class to take the state exam. And then you immediately know if you pass or fail. And so you're walking out the door and you're like smiling. And then the person walking out the door next to you is devastated and in tears. And it's a high failure rate. So then you get all excited that you passed. And then you realize, I really don't know that much about real estate. And it's a lot more complicated than just filling in the blanks. It's learning people's personalities. Is, do I have the confidence without having any sales or whatever? I'm learning new terminology. So I think it's also the environment that you're in too. My previous brokerages, I definitely learned a particular set of skills that has helped me to move here. But since I've been in this particular environment, it's been a lot more pouring into me and my career versus me helping others make a lot of money.
Okay.
So through that, I only had a few models of what success was previously. And then coming here, I got to see multiple models of success. And then it allowed me to realize that my path is not your path. And honestly, I work hard, but I ain't trying to work as hard as some of these other people are in their own way. Real estate will never be my full life. I love it. It's been helpful. It helps my family in a sense that I can give them advice and all of that. But I don't want work in general to ever be a full part of my life. And so because of that, I've been really intentional about building the life that I want, knowing that real estate allows me that freedom to create whatever life that I want. And I don't know if I would have felt that previously. Or I was not in that space previously. I thought in order to be successful, you had to have a large team. And that's great for people.
Right.
I just don't want to manage grown people like that. And coaching is different than managing someone, right? In that professional sense of your business, your brand, your whatever. So I love being a party of one with really great hero support. And I don't even consider myself hero, but my assistant is an awesome hero support, right? She keeps me in line. We have really great vision. We both have ideas about where we want to go, but it also aligns with one another. So I was able to create and see different opportunities of how to be successful. There are single agents that just pay someone on the side and they do $20 million a year. And then there are people who are like, I want to be a part of a team. So you get to create what's authentically yours. And I think that that's really beautiful. And I always want them to know that they can create whatever business they want. They could have whatever level of success they want, that we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people, because the amount of money I need to feel successful in my life is going to be completely different than yours.
Right.
And we have to stop comparing ourselves to each other, because then that creates all the negative self-talk. And then it's a spiral from there. Spiral.
I think it's really powerful because when you're bringing that into your coaching, it's people hear real estate coaching or productivity coaching, particularly that phrase.
Right,
and they think
production.
of what's production. And I love that you've gotten behind the whys and the wherefores behind the production. Like, okay, you want to produce. We all want to produce. What does success look like for you? And like having even that be the starting point for definition, they may not have an answer.
No, they generally don't.
Exactly.
Or the usual answer is $100,000. And I'm like, how are you going to get there? What are we going to do? What's our plan of action? But you realize that $20,000 in someone's additional income in someone's life can change their life, right? The 100 is the easy part, but also the 100 takes a whole nother level of work that not all of us necessarily want to do.
Right.
And some of us think they want to quit their day job because it's boring and mundane or whatever that is. At the same time, having a few extra real estate transactions, 2 to 4 to 6 in that year while having benefits and insurance and those things that come along with a practical 9 to 5, that's hard to walk away from. But if I can help you create an extra $15, $20, $25, $40,000 in your pocket that you wouldn't have otherwise, then that other job doesn't feel so bad.
Right.
Because now I get to work that job, keep my benefits, have a retirement per se, if you're doing that traditional path, and then use this money to play, to save, to invest, to whatever. So it just gives you freedom. whatever that freedom is for you.
And that's the important part. That's the important part. I always ask everyone this, and it's kind of boring, kind of passe, but I ask them what's their best moment in real estate. And I'm going to give you mine before I give you yours.
I love it. Let's hear it.
So I've done all the jobs in mortgages. I was living in Philadelphia with my now wife, Susan, and we're running a processing team. We're closing 40 loans a month, whatever. I'm doing great. And my lender says, do you want to come to this closing? And I'm like, nah, I got nothing to do. I'll go to the closing. And I go to the closing, and I watch this young lady break down and cry because of how much our work had changed her life.
Yeah.
And that was the first moments. I've had other proud moments, but that was the first one for me where I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was a light bulb moment. It was like, it's burned into my mind. This is 10 years ago.
Stop aging us.
Right.
What are you doing?
But it was burned in my mind. I was like, oh, there's a sense of purpose behind this. Just more than just I'm pushing numbers and making sure these things close on time because that's how I get my check. It became I changed this woman's life forever. I changed her children's lives forever. She had her kids at the closing. And I was just like,
incredible.
Right? And it was one of those things that was just kind of okay, and that's when it went from a job for me to like, this could be a career for me.
Yeah.
And that was the moment. I didn't get my sales license until 5 years later,
Okay.
after I bought my first home and had a not great experience, got to the closing table, almost had a panic attack. And I'm like, I know these documents better than the realtors or the lawyers. Like, what am I freaking out about?
Yeah.
And it was a week after that is when I got my sales license. I was like, I don't want anyone to feel that way at the closing table. So it feels, each time I've gotten these new experiences, I've been able to kind of react and move to them. Mm-hmm. What is there one that stands out for you?
You know, that's so interesting. Mine was a snot and tears moment too. So when I got into real estate, like I said, I had that job already, right? And so I worked with that broker for a while, and then I was like, nah, this is great. Thank you so much, but it's time for me to move on. And then I went to my next brokerage, which is how I met Mark, our fabulous broker.
Yeah.
And then I got back into the restaurant industry because I wasn't making any money, and I started bartending again. And then through bartending again, someone came in and was like, hey, get your real estate license and I have a job for you. And I was like, oh, you're so cute. I have a license. When would you like me to start? When is the job? And then that's when I started doing on-site sales and selling developments.
Right.
And so in one of the developments that I was selling over in Castleberry, actually Castleberry Point, a woman came in and my development didn't work for her. So I was able to pick her up as a personal buyer. And at the time, I was pretty well versed on a lot of the down payment assistance programs and things. And she was an affordable buyer at the time. And so we rocked together and we found a place and she bought and she said, my dream is to, before I'm 40, is to have a condo in a high rise with a view. And I was like, bet. Right. And so we figured it out. And the lender actually showed up at the closing, which is a rarity. And Daniel won't tell you this, but lenders don't show up at closing. So it was a rarity that the lender showed up for closing. And I looked over and we got through the closing. We're hugging and all that stuff. And when we walked out, it finally hit her. I'm going to cry. And she lost it. And it was beautiful. And I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I always got it because I always tell you, we're middle class, but we dodge bullets to be middle class. So my family is military. My sister didn't buy her first home until she was 40. I was fortunate enough to buy my first place in my early 30s. But I remember when I was waiting tables, there was a young lady I was working with, and she was 23 buying her first home. And I was like, child, it's the last thing I was thinking about at 23.
Right.
But it's life-changing in general. It is life-changing for people who look like us.
Yes.
And that's also why real estate has been so important to me, is because it allows us to get into a game that we always haven't been a part of. So yeah, snot and tears. It was amazing.
It's one of the reasons people are like, oh, it's the individual thing, but it's also the larger move. Again, people look like us. Mm-hmm. My industry's not full of people who look like us.
No, it is not.
There's no way into this industry unless you know someone in the industry. And one of my larger goals for me at doing this job, help people get into homes, of course, we have more Black undergrads than any city in America.
Yeah.
Like my goal, like real talk, is to be able to go to Clark, go to Morehouse and say, hey, come work for my team for 2 years. I'll help you get your lender's license and I'll teach you the business for 2 years. You can process, you can assist them, whatever you think's gonna be the best fit. And I'll teach you how to help people find homes.
Yeah.
Afford homes.
So wild. I've always thought about that. And you want to start in college. I want to start in high school.
Yeah.
I want to get them thinking about it in high school so that when they graduate at 18, because you can get your real estate license at 18, right? If I started at 32-ish, right? But I didn't really start making money until 3-4 years later. Honestly, after the market crash is when I started making money. But if you could start at 18 or 21 or 25, you literally could possibly retire by 40.
Right.
And then be traveling the world if you want, right? It's such a game changer to be introduced to it. And especially when you don't come, more power to you if you come from legacy people, right? Who my dad was in construction or developed land. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing that very few people who look like us have ever been able to say.
Right.
You have your Russells and stuff in Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. Good. That's great. But we're taught to be just, doctors, lawyers, just the most general things. But there's a million things you can do in real estate. You can be a loan officer. You can be a processor. You can be on the back end underwriting. You could be a stager. For real estate, there's so many different things that you can do. And it's just, I want to just be able to show people that there's multiple paths to get there. And you don't have to do anything forever. You don't have to do anything forever.
That's the one thing having my son has taught me.
Yeah.
Everything's temporary. So like the nights early on when he was super crying, I wouldn't even let it, it would bother you. I'm human. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my wife and I would say to each other, at some point, this child's going to steal our car or go on walk for money. And he's definitely not going to want to be held. And so the fact that he wants to be held at 3 a.m., try to be present in that moment and say,
they
this
say
is
it
all
goes by so fast.
I'm a year in, and it's also temporary. Everything we do, he's been taking medicine since his second month on this earth. And the end of the medicine is a month from now. And I'm like, whoo. I was twice a day, just he takes a little injections and now he's happy as can be. But the fact that we're already weaning him off in a month, it'll be something that's in the hindsight of my life.
Yeah.
And we put away all the bottles 2 days ago because he's moving to sippy cups. I'm like, this is very strange. This is all moving very quickly, and then everything is temporary. And I think that's a great outlook. And you're not locked into anything. Last 2 things I want to talk about. Cool. We had Mark in here on Wednesday. I want to talk about kind of the idea of growth at Keller Williams in town and how it's strategic. You can bring on a bunch of people and say, go figure it out. But I think it's been really admirable to watch how, particularly the new reinvestment with the mentorship program that Mark's getting off the ground, and your investment in the people who are either placed into or volunteer for PC coaching. What do you see for the next, as this PC group grows and evolves and develops? And I think that you've really put your stamp on it because you're so focused on the whole person and say, hey, if you can do your classes, if you follow the outline that we've given you.
Crazy.
I can help you.
Yeah.
I can't make you do it.
No.
But if you're willing to work, I'm willing to work with you. What do you see as this evolves and grows? Because you're going to start having those success stories pouring out of the PC group just because whether they see it or not.
Yeah.
Whether they see the return on the investment that they're putting in or not right now, you and I have been around this game long enough to know that the ones who are committed, it's going to pay off.
Yes, it will. Growth. I think, number one, I have to continue to grow as a coach because I honestly had to learn when I got this position. I didn't know the difference between coaching and mentoring. I know the training, right? But coaching and mentoring are 2 different things. And so I feel I'm becoming a stronger coach. I've always been a good mentor.
Right on.
So that was the easy path for me. Training, absolutely. I can train you all day long. But the coaching is also holding someone to a certain level of accountability, asking a lot of tough questions, helping them to continuously re-engage, which is very much like real estate, right? You get to the ledge, I got to talk you back off the ledge. And so as I become a better coach, I think that retention will be a little bit better. Also, life has just been lifing. It's just... COVID was one thing, and then coming off COVID, I don't think people were talking about is a whole new thing, right? We've all had to shift what our new normal is. And then within real estate, once you get through the class, that was the easy part. As much as you didn't realize that was the easy part. Now we really have to work on who you are, what is authentic to you. Do you even know what's authentic to you, right? And I want to make sure that people understand that hopefully they're not being treated as a commodity. Like, obviously, this is a business.
Right.
We want you to be successful. You being successful allows our brokerage to be successful. I think that we also have to give people a little bit of a different runway than before, just because this market has just shifted so much. And luckily, they don't know the past in the sense of they haven't worked in this environment. At the same time, they've heard all of the stories. And because they heard all the stories, they got to let all of that go and allow themselves to be open to this challenge and growth and how that fits into their current life, right? And what you're able to do this month may not be what you're able to do next month, because life is always lifing. And so being able to know that you have to be adaptable, that's a tough one for people. They're already said they want to change, but then actually doing the changes is a tough thing. So I had to learn that I'm not responsible for the outcome. At the same time, part of me always wants to have a little bit of responsibility for the outcome. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think some people need individual one-on-one, like someone just basically on their tail. At the same time, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be on your own tail.
Self-check.
So it's a push and pull that I'm still navigating. And I think they have to navigate that as well.
What I've loved, and I've never been an in-house lender in a real estate office before. What I've loved in the last year, I told Mark this as well, is that the leadership here feels transformational as opposed to transactional.
Yeah.
You already touched on it. You said it beautifully where you said, hey, yes, numbers help our brokerage, but we can't get there unless we work with the people and grow the people and invest in the people. And that's how you get the return on investment. You have poured so much of yourself, time, and energy into this. And I know that you and I have talked about our personal, the way we look at our world. We're very service-based and giving of ourselves. Heartened to hear you say, I'm growing as a coach and a leader, but outside observer, I want to reaffirm that I'm seeing it too.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm
Okay,
seeing
that's
you grow,
cool
and
to
I'm
hear.
seeing you evolve, and I'm seeing you learn from X, Y, and Z. But it's been inspiring for me. It's like, okay, like even when I come, like the Saturdays I come, when you're like,
therapy
we're just
session.
gonna have therapy for an hour. I'm like, great.
Do we need to?
No, it's never that. But sometimes they think that because they don't realize, and it's the thing that you and I talk about all the time. And you said it, and you said it without saying it. You lead the test, and you're so accomplished.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, there's more work in front of you. The thing that my father told me, good work only leads to more good work.
Yeah, I think what it is too is that like the work was outside of you. Do you know what I mean? When you're trying to get your license, you're focusing on something that's outside of you. I just have to study and I have to pass the test. I need to know how I process information, especially if I haven't done it in a while, right? And then I'm going to pass this test, and then that is the big prize. Then you have to do the personal work. Right? Then the work comes in inside work. Because if I want people to trust me with one of the biggest decisions they're going to make in their lives, I now have to trust myself in knowing that what I'm saying is confident, what I'm saying is authentic, and that's what keep a lot of agents, new agents, from being productive and successful, because they haven't built up their confidence to even open their mouth and say they're a realtor. Because all they're thinking about is, I don't have production. I don't have a house that I've listed or sold. Of course, they're going to go with someone who has more experience. What they don't recognize, and I think what we do a disservice in, a lot of times we're looking at TikTok videos about real estate and whatever that is that this is just a personal business, right? I'm helping you to make the biggest decision of your life. If you're coming from a place of help, it's never going to feel gross. But as soon as you get out of real estate school, all they start talking about is production and commissions. You start looking at everyone as a commodity. Everyone is, do I think they want to buy something or sell something from me? Oh, they don't? Okay. Do you want to buy something or sell something from me? No, you don't? Okay. Do you want to buy something or sell something from me? And we have to, when it comes to the coaching aspect, it is as soon as you have confidence in yourself, you'll open your mouth. As soon as you have confidence in yourself, you'll feel confident to help people make decisions for themselves, right? We're not making decisions for them, but we're helping them to feel confident about the decisions they're making. And if you lack that confidence, how can I help you have confidence in your own decisions?
Exactly.
And so that's where it's not self-sabotage, but that's when the doubt comes in. And the elation from passing the exam is over because now you're
Very
like,
temporary, yeah.
I have to talk to people about the market. I don't know anything about the market. I have to talk to people about showing a house. I've never shown a house before. And then you have to start going, but I've always done hard things. And this is just another hard thing that I need to do. But it gets very introspective because people choose you for you.
Right.
There's a million realtors out here.
Right.
Anybody can open a house. Anyone can fill in the blanks of a contract. Can I trust you to be on this ride with me and feel open and vulnerable enough to bring you into my life for a temporary time to talk about my finances, which has shame and embarrassment and all types of things, opening up to my family and marriage and relationship dynamics, right? Because you have to understand the person and the lifestyle in order to help them to get what they want. That's a very personal, intimate experience for a month, 3 months, 6 months time. And if I don't trust myself, why are you going to trust me to open up to me so I can help you to make that decision?
Awesome. Thank you. That was perfect.